Hello person, and welcome to a Lua tutorial where I'll teach you how to make an apple pie from scratch. Where I'll teach you how to build Lua from scratch and install it manually. The motivation behind this is because tools like Lua for Windows, the Lua binaries, Lua rocks, Lua dist, and anything else you can think of, all those helpful tools, sometimes they're out of date. And also, some of them don't even have the libraries required to get the C API working. So this is lua.org. There's all kinds of crazy links where you can find help if you need it, but you can look at those on your own time. Right now, I'm only concerned with the source code. So you'll want to download the source, shown at the top of the download page. It'll be in tar.gz format, meaning you'll need an archive manager. I'm using 7-zip right now, and I'm just going to take the folder and unpack it onto my desktop. Inside, you'll see some documentation. You can look at this on your own time. You'll also see a README and the source, and the source is what we're after. Inside of a Visual Studio command prompt, you'll want to change to the source directory where you can start compiling. All of the commands shown will be in the description of the video. First things first, we want to compile all the C code. And assuming everything went alright, you should see a bunch of OBJ files. But there's two we want to rename, lua.obj and luac.obj. We want to change the extension to O, because we don't want to select them with a wildcard later. Before we can link the interpreter, we have to link all the OBJ files into lua5.2.dll and lua5.2.lib, where 5.2 is the version number. When you're done, you should see the two files in your source folder. Now it's time to create the interpreter. You'll pass in the lua.o file we renamed earlier, and also give it lua5.2.lib. And there it is. But before we can play with it, let's create the compiler first. But before we can link the compiler, we have to create another static library called lua5.2 static.lib, using the lib command. Similar to how we made the interpreter, we're going to pass in the luac.o file that we renamed earlier. We're also going to give it the lua5.2 static.lib library instead. And now you're done! You've finished building Lua. Now all that's left is to set some environment variables and organize a bit. You can see I'm putting the executables and the DLL on the top level. I'll also create a new folder for the lib files called lib. Note that the most important one is lua5.2.lib, but it won't hurt us to put the other ones in here too. I'll also make an include folder for the C API headers. There's only a few of them that we actually care about. I'll list them in the description of the video. Plop those in and you should be... wait a minute. How'd that get in there? Last but not least, a folder for Lua libraries called Lua. Now for some finishing touches. You're going to want to create a folder and call it Lua. And then you're going to want to rename the old folder to whatever version number you have, in my case, 5.2. Then you'll want to drag that folder into the Lua folder. With this new folder, you're going to want to drag it into program files. Now for the most important part, setting the environment variables. You can get here by going to My Computer, Properties, Advanced System Properties, and then click on the Advanced tab. The first you'll want to set is the Lua directory. This will be the folder that we installed Lua in, which was C, Program Files, Lua, and then our version number. Next, you'll want to make Lua cpath, which is a sort of regular expression to the DLL file that we created, which was just on the top level of the directory. Lastly is Lua path. Lua path contains a sort of regular expression that tells the Lua interpreter where to search for Lua files, such as libraries, Remember, we created the subfolder Lua. But that's not the end yet. We need to modify the Windows path variable so that it knows where to find the Lua interpreter. We'll just copy in the same Lua directory path. And you're all done! Now let's try it out. Alright, the interpreter seems to work. How about writing some code? Alright, so here's a function that will tell me whether a number is even or odd using Lua 5.2 features. I won't explain any of the code in the video, but I'll link it in the description and add comments where needed. Let's try to get the C API working. I'm using Visual Studio 2012 to do this, and what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to C++, General, and add additional include directories. We want to add the include folder that we made in the Lua directory. Next, you'll want to go to Linker and General, and in there, you'll see additional library directories. You're going to want to add the lib folder we made in the Lua directory. And the last stop is Linker Input. In here, you'll want to add additional dependencies. And what you'll add specifically is Lua 5.2.lib. Let's see if it works. Again, I won't explain the code, but I'll link it in the description. But what this code does is it will run a file called test.lua, which I'm creating right now. In test.lua, I'm just going to make a simple hello world program. It works! Everything works! Our installation went smoothly. I hope you enjoyed, and more importantly, I hope you learned something. If you have questions, you can ask them in the comments. I'll also have more detailed instructions in text form. But anyway, thank you for watching.